Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Kesubos Nun Daled. We are holding on Gimel Amud Beis, the second line from the bottom of the Amud. So we learned that a daughter can feed herself using her departed father's assets. She gets Mazzanis. She's entitled to Mazzanis. It's part of the Kesubos Obligations. Boy Rabbi Lazar asks Rabbi Lazar, what happens if she's a Bas Shaniya? This fellow married an Isha who's forbidden to him. Not a primary Erva, but a secondary Erva who is Asr Midrabban, mother's mother, etc., etc. The second tier Arayis. And they have a daughter, and he passes away. That daughter, Bas Shaniya, Yesh Lai Mazzanis, or Yein La Mazzanis. Is she entitled to Mazzanis or not? What's the question? Kiv and the less lo Kesuba. The fact is, mother has no Kesuba. The Chachamim revoked any Kesuba obligations between this man and this woman because it's a forbidden union. Shall we say, less la Mazzanis. Just as there's no primary Kesuba obligation between this man and woman, likewise, their daughter is not entitled to anything which is associated with Kesuba obligation. Or perhaps you can differentiate. Ima de avda isura kanesuha rabbanon. The mother who committed an isser by marrying this man. A kanas, a penalty, is applied to her. Her ksuba entitlement is revoked. But ihi, this daughter, delay avda isura, who never committed an isser, it's not her fault. Like on Surah Rabbana, perhaps there's no knas in this case, and she is entitled to Mazzanis after father's passing. Teku, we let it stand unresolved. By Rava, another question, Basarusa. They're engaged. And they have a daughter. Is she entitled to Mazzanis after her father's passing? Yesh la Mazzanis? Or yein la Mazzanis? What's the question here? Kiv and the Isla Kesuba. Fact is, the Kesuba obligation kicks in at Erusin, at engagement. Isla, likewise the daughter, is entitled to her entitlements. Or perhaps we can say Kivan de Tekinu Rabbana Kesuba. Since, after all, the Chachamim were misaken that Kesuba is only actually written and formalized at the marriage, ad sha'as nesun, until marriage. There really isn't a Kesuba document in hand, so perhaps all these enhanced Kesuba obligations, such as feeding a daughter after death, is only triggered and activated at that later point, but not during Erusin, and therefore Lesla, she is not entitled. Teku, we let it stand. Another question by Rav Papa, Basanusa. This fellow interacted with an Isha in a forced manner, and they have a daughter. The halacha is, he has to pay a knas to the Isha. He must marry her. So what happens to their daughter? Yesh la Mazzanis? Or ein la Mazzanis? Is she entitled to Mazzanis or not? Ali b'd Rabbi Yesi. But Rabbi Yehuda, according to this shita, there's no question that there is Mazzanis. Because he holds the Amar Yesh la Kesuba Amona. Even by an Anusa, where he's paying knas before anything happens. Before marriage, he's already paying penalty. Still, when he actually marries her, there is a Kesuba payout obligation between the man and the woman. Knas does not replace Kesuba. There is Kesuba, which includes this element of Mazzanis as well, to daughter upon father's passing. There's no question there that she has Mazzanis. The question can be posed, Aliva the Rabbanon the Amri, who they claim, they say, Yotza Kesef Kenasa Kesubos. The Knas payment that he must pay out because of the Einus experience, that is sort of counted against the Ksuba. That is deducted. That replaces the Ksuba. So although he's marrying her at the end of the day, but there's no Ksuba obligation, he's already paid out his obligations. So now we have a question. Even the less la Kesuba, less la Mazzanis. Perhaps, just as there's no Ksuba payout anymore, Mazzanis as well does not apply. Or perhaps Ksuba By ksuba, it's different. Taimamai. Why would you say there is no ksuba by an oinus? Because after all, why is there a ksuba to begin with? He shouldn't just get rid of his wife easily. Ksuba equals obligation, equals commitment, equals a proper relationship. That's typical. But over here, there's no need to reinforce this relationship. He's committed to her. An oinus may not disengage from his wife. He has to hold on to her. It's a chiyuv. There's no need for ksuba to keep the marriage intact. Okay, so that pertains to the actual ksuba payout between the man and the woman. But why would that affect his daughter's mazzanis entitlement? That's unrelated to shaloi tei kalav be'enav lo yitzia. The ksuba payout, which is based on that concept, is irrelevant by the oinus, where he has to hold on to her in any case. It's a guaranteed marriage. But why wouldn't the daughter get mazzanis? Just as any daughter. Take her, we let it stand. At teheyasva bebesi. Another Tanai Ksuba is, he passes on, his almana, his widow, will support herself using her departed husband's estate. Until what point? Forever? Until she leaves the home, until she remarries. As long as she's still identifying, she's still sitting in the home and identifying with her former husband, she's entitled to mezainis. Tani Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef focused on the wording of the condition, of the Tanai, of the stipulation. Bebesi is repeated once and again to teach us veloy bebiksi, as opposed to a small, crowded abode which cannot really accommodate the needs of the orphans and the almana together. In that case, they can send her home. They can tell her, look, go back to your father's home and stay there, because this is not a place that accommodates all of us. Aval mezayni isla. But the chiddush is that although she leaves them and goes back home, she's still entitled to mezaynis. Because, I didn't leave willingly. Well, the point wasn't to, abandon you and to disengage and detach myself from my former husband. So typically, a precondition for mezaynis is her staying on in the home. But when it's not practical, she can go back home to her father's home, and she still maintains her Mazzanis rights. Mar Baravashi Omar, he disagrees. Afilu Mazzanin Amelesla. Once she leaves her husband's home, she loses Mazzanis. Veles Hilchasa Kamar Baravashi, we don't paskin like that. The fact is, in this case, these circumstances compelled her to leave. And therefore, she's still entitled to mezainis. Amar of Nachman Amar Shmo Tavu Ali Nase. Suppose somebody offered her, somebody proposed marriage to her, Vinis Paisan, she accepted the offer. Ein la mezainis. From that point onward, she has disengaged from her former husband. No more mezainis entitlement. Says the Gemara. Apparently, if she did not accept that offer, you mean to say yesh la mezainis? She's still entitled? And that's a bit difficult to understand, because if she's contemplating remarriage, she's involved in looking for a match, apparently she's already disengaged. She's no longer identifying with her former husband. She's not staying behind to maintain and to Rashi says, the kavod of the Baal. That's not her interest. She's looking for a new partner. So why would she get mezainis? Amar of Anan lididi mefar shaliminei de Mar Shmuel. To me, it was explained in the name of Mar Shmuel that it's not a clear-cut halal. It depends on the circumstance. It depends why she's not accepting this marriage offer. Is it because of her husband? She can't leave that home. She's still identifying with him. In that case, she's still entitled to mezainis. Or is it because she hasn't found a suitable match? In that case, she loses Mazzanis. Minei demar Shmuel. So it was explained to me from Shmuel. Amra, if this almana is saying, look, I can't accept this offer. It's too premature. Machmas pleni bali. I can't negate the honor of my former husband. I can't leave yet. In that case, she's still emotionally attached to him and to his household. Yesh la Mazzanis, she gets Mazzanis. But machmas bnei adam she'enan mugan Allah. But if problem is there is no suitable match, in that case, ein la Mazzanis, she's already 1 foot out. She has no Mazzanis. Amrav Chizda zinsa ein la Mazzanis. If she commits znus, that too is a disengagement and no Mazzanis going forward. Amrav Yosef, another example, kichlo pirchasa. Let's say she's beautifying herself. Ein la Mazzanis, she loses Mazzanis, and Rashi says once again, this is a gilui das, an indication that she's no longer connected to the covet of her husband. Manda Amar Zinsa, the one who explained that Zinsa revokes the right. Koshkin kichlo pirchasa, certainly beautification. Manda Amar kichlo pirchasa, but the other shita, that only beautification is considered a disengagement. Aval Zinsa Isla. He'll maintain that Znus does not have the same effect. You know why? My timer. Yetzer Ansa, she was compelled by the Yetzer, she had a desire to associate with a man. You can't really consider that a disengagement from her former husband. It was just a one-time incident, and therefore she still holds on to the Mazzanis. But the Gemara concludes, V'les hilchasa k'cholani shmatza. We do not actually accept all these halachas. An Isha will not lose Mazzanis unless she really did something in a pronounced fashion to indicate that she's terminating her relationship with her former husband. Once she walks into Bezdin and claims, where's my Ksuba payout? That's when her new life begins. Says the Gemara V'loi. Really? That's the only way to lose Mazzanis? Toiveya the Ksuba in Bezdin? Vatanya, the Brisa says, Mohawk Tsubasa. Merely just having sold her Ksuba rights to others. Mishkan Tsubasa, using it as a guarantor. Asasa Tsubasa Apoitigo, she takes the field which is there to back up her Ksuba claim, and she uses it as an apoitiki, which is a Rashi apoitehei, it's a joint word. Your claim, she has a creditor, right? So your claim is applied to this field. So she's sort of using the field which was earmarked for her ksuba payment to secure another loan. So at this point she's already doing business. She's already activated her ksuba, payment process. Her Mazzanis stops right there. Hani in. So only these processes, apparently just simply claiming, wanting to collect Ksuba, that doesn't do the trick. Answers the Gemara, actually it does. Hani, these processes discussed here, selling the Ksuba, etc., it doesn't matter how it happened, where it happened. Bebezdin, Bain Bebezdin, whether it was done with Bezdin's authority, Bain Shaloi Bebezdin, or without using Bezdin's services, that's considered having activated the Ksuba process, no more Mazzanis. But merely Tevas, if she's just speaking about collecting her money, she's starting to claim her Ksuba, that depends where it happened. If it was a formal claim, but Bezdin, yes, that activates the Ksuba collection process, no more Mazzanis. But Shaloi Bezdin Loi, but out of Bezdin, that's just an informal discussion, and does not really activate it to the point that she loses Mazzanis. Back to the Mishnah. So how is it written in the Ksuba? You can continue having Mazzanis as long as you're in my home, and throughout the extended Almana period, you can have Mazzanis. But there was a slight change in Nusach, depending on where you lived. In Yerushalayim, it was as long as you stick around. In Yehuda area, they changed it until the Yersh and the orphans choose to pay out the Ksuba. So it's up to them. So in Yerushalayim, it was up to the Isha, as long as you want to stick around. In Yehuda, it was up to the Yisayimim, until they decide to pay out your ksuba. How do we paskin? Itmar, Rav Amara, Halacha Kanshe Yehuda. It's up to the Yisayimim. Ushmor Amar Halacha Kanshe Galil. It's up to the Isha. Bavel, in the city of Bavel, V'chol Parvedah, and all the outskirts, the suburbs, Nog Karav, they followed Rav's opinion. It's up to the Yisayimim. Nahardah, in the other town, V'chol Parvedah, and all its suburbs, Nog Kishmol, they followed Shmuel. That was Shmuel's locale, and they followed his opinion. That it's up to the Almana to decide at what point she wants to leave the home. So there was a story of a marriage which had both factors. She came from one place and he came from the other. Which way, how do we deal with it? Hahibas Mechayza. There was an Isha from Mechayza. Davas Nesiva Lenardo. So she came from Mechayza, which was near Bavel, married to a man from Nahardo. Also the Kameder of Nachman. So it was after his passing. Question is, until what point can she collect Mazzanis? Is it up to her choice or up to their choice? So they came to Rav Nachman. Shama Lakala. Rav Nachman, by listening to her voice and her accent, he figured the Bas Mechayza. He figured out that she came from Mechayza. Amr Lahu. So he told him, okay, that's the halacha. Bavel v'chal par v'dah no karav. We know that Bavel and Mechayza, all that, that's Rav's place, and they follow Rav's shita. It's up to the Yisayimim. Amr Lei. So they responded to Rav. True, her accent gave it away, but you must know one more thing. Her husband was a Nahardah man. Oh, if that's the case, he says, no kishmol. In that case, we go like Shmuel, because it's all determined by the man's locale. He, after all, he's the one that's writing the ksuba, and it goes according to his custom. And therefore, in this case, the Isha can decide until what point she collects her Mazzanis. Until which area is still considered Nahardah. Adecha the Sagi Kaba the Nahardah. Until where they still use the Kab, the measuring, containers of Nahardah, the measures, Rashi says, until where they measure the Tzvua, b'midas Kav Nahardah, using the measuring methods of Nahardah. Here comes a new question. Itzmar, Almana. So we have a widow after her husband's passing, and she's wearing clothing. Is that hers? Or do we discount and deduct that from the Ksuba payout? We have a machlekes. Rav Amar Shaman, we appraise Masha what she's wearing, and it's deducted from the Ksuba. Ushmol Amar Ein Shaman Masha. No, we don't deduct it, it's rightfully hers. Amar Rav Chia bar Abin, v'chilufa, b'lakit. A lakit is a day laborer, a fellow who is a live-in laborer. He actually sticks around for a week or two to do some, jobs around the house, etc. At the end of which, he gets some sort of salary. Now, all throughout that live-in period, the employer might give him some begadim to use for the meantime. What happens at the end of his work period? Does he keep those begadim or not? V'chilufa, we switch around the shittas. That's Rav Chia bar Abin's approach, that Rav will hold that the locket keeps what he's wearing, as opposed to the almana who cannot keep what she's wearing. And some explain because the locket, he can just be here and gone tomorrow. The fact that he's allowing him to put on his clothing indicates that he's giving it away to him. So that's Rav's opinion, whereas Shmuel will go the other way. And by the almana, whatever she's wearing is meant for her. By the locket, it's just a temporary thing. I didn't mean to give away the clothing. It was just as long as you're here. In any case, we switch around the shittas. But Rav Kahana Masni, he had a different version. V'chein b'loket. Same and consistent. Just as the din ba'almana, likewise the din ba'de loket. Umanach b'simana. And he had and Rav actually had a formula to remember the halacha. The same halacha applies to both. Yasma, that's the loket fellow, the worker. He's called a yasam, perhaps because he has to be looked after. He's here and he's looked after. Var Malta, and the almana, in both cases, shlach, undress them a puk and send them out. So their begadim do not belong to them. So that's Rav's opinion, whereas Shmuel maintains they have it, they wear it, they keep it. Omar of Nachman, afagav desnan b'masnisin kavasei de Shmuel. Although we find a Mishnah which supports Shmuel, you wear it, you keep it. Hilchasa kavasei de Rav, halacha lamasa follows Rav. We deduct it from their pay. Where is the Mishnah that supports Shmuel? Desnan echad amagdish nachasef. Whether he committed to give all his assets to the Beis Hamikdash, ve'echad amarachas atzma, he obligated himself to pay his value to the Mikdash. Now the Gabbai comes to collect. He doesn't find much of value. He has to go looking for assets. Eloi, so the Gabbai who's collecting, Eloi, he has no right to collect and to interfere. Loi biksus ishtoi, whether the garments belonging to his wife, loi biksus banav, or his children's clothing, loi bitseva shetzava lishmon, even begadim which he had dyed with his mind, with his wife in mind. They haven't yet worn it. She hasn't yet worn it, but it was prepared for her. Or new sandals which he bought for them. They don't belong to him. They were earmarked and designated for his family. Apparently, that's the halacha. Whatever is meant for them in terms of garments and shoes is theirs. Here as well, by the almana, whatever she's wearing is hers. Amali Rav Nachman. Well, if we have a Mishnah, once you have a Mishnah that supports Shmuel, whatever you're wearing is yours, so then why would you say that the halacha lamasa follows Rav? That we don't give it to them. Amar Leisa, he responded, L'cha'ira, a very rare term in the Gemara, but very commonly used today in Svarim, L'cha'ira, so it's sourced in this Gemara, Kesubos Nafshan Dal, L'cha'ira. It would appear, meaning at first glance, Kishmol Rehita. When you run through the Mishnah, it seems that Shmuel is in the right. So he brings on the side from the Aruch that it's a lashon of oir, ka'ira. When you just take a glance at it, when you lashon of being exposed to it. At first glance, it appears that Shmuel is right. But when you pay close attention, when you are ma'ayin further, you will realize that Rav is the more probable shita. Why? My timer. Ki akni la adata la make him kamei. When a man gives, garments to his family, the point is that she should stay with him. It's a long-term proposition. And that explains the halacha of the magdish and the marich. Sure, everybody's alive and well. We hope until 120 they'll be around, they'll use it, sure. Hadata lemishka lemeipak le'aknila. But if the intent and purpose is to take this and leave, of course that's not what he had in mind. So by the almana as well, she's not with him anymore, and therefore it's not really considered, rightfully hers. So there was a daughter-in-law, the Bei Baral Yashiv, who was part of the Baral Yashiv family. And we were speaking, after a fellow passed away, okay, came time for her to collect the ksuba from the Yisraelim. So they were taking her to the bezin to discuss it. Amri, but then they turned around, they took a look at her, and they said, 1 second. Zila lon milsa. It's embarrassing for us. It's shameful for us to tizli hachi, that you appear as such in public. You're unpresentable. Azla, so she went. She took all her entire wardrobe and dressed herself. Now they came to Ravina. The question was, the begadim that she's wearing, are they hers or not? Amar lahu, he tells them, the Rav, we follow Rav, the Amar, who said, Almana shamin mashaleh, we appraise, we evaluate, and we deduct it from the Kesubos. Okay, let's move on to the Nedunya Sugya. A fellow promises a dowry. Hahu da Amar lahu, so this fellow before his passing declares, Nedunya lebras, I want you to give, such and such, in terms of jewelry, etc., for my daughter. So he specified, 3 necklaces, etc. Zal Nadunya. Turns out that when the time came, time to actually give it to her, the items went down in value. The question is, do the orphans have to compensate for that, or can they just give her these items despite their lower value? Amar Rabbi Bar Abin Purna, the profit, the gain, liasmi, is the Saimim's gain. Meaning they don't have to compensate further. This is what he promised her. These items, she takes it, whether it's same or lower value, doesn't matter. Likewise, Hahuda Amarlu, this fellow declared, Arba me'azuzi min chamra lebras. I have a whole wine cellar full of barrels of wine. I want you to take some wine, 400 zuz worth, and give it to my daughter for the nedunya. It turns out that later on, the price of wine shot up. Iyakar chamra. It became more valuable. So the question is she entitled to that amount of wine, which is now worth more? For instance, let's say the 400 zuz that he spoke about at that time would equal 400 barrels of wine, just for argument's sake, right? So in effect, he promised her 400 barrels of wine. Now, those same 400 barrels of wine are worth double, triple. So do the Yisraelim have to give her the 400 barrels, despite the fact that they doubled and tripled in value? She's going to get more than 400 zuz, or can they cut away? All they need to do is give her 400 zuz from the wine. Amar Yosef, Rav Chali asked me, here as well, the Yisraelim are on top. They are the ones that gain. He promised her 400 zuz worth of wine at the moment that she receives it. When she'll actually take that payout, she gets the 400 zuz from the wine. So no more than 400 zuz worth. Kreve de Rabbi Yehuda. There were some relatives of Rabbi Yehuda. Havalu itas abba. They had a stepmother. This was still during their father's lifetime. We had this reference to the stepmother 2 days ago. So there was another aspect to the story. This was still during the husband's lifetime, and they saw Kamafsada Mazani. She's, tapping into his assets and consuming a lot of mazanis in an excessive manner. They realized that this is going to cost her. They're going to cost them a lot of money upon his passing. So what's the solution? Also, so he came to Rabbi Yehuda. Amrulu, he gave him advice. He says, "Izilu, go ahead. Ve'imrulei, and tell la'avuchan, your father, the yachid law, ara lemazayna." Oh, of course, he can't get away from giving her mazanis. It's part of the Tanai Ksuba. But why doesn't he do something like this? Let him be miyachid. Let him designate a certain property and say, "This is the property which you can draw mazanis from." Right. So now you're limited. You're restricting her ability to collect. She can use this property to sell for mazanis, but no more. You're sort of capping the expense. That was Rabbi Yechanan's approach. Also, look at Rish Lakish. Then when they came to Rish Lakish and he heard about this whole thing, Amar Lahu, Rish Lakish totally disagreed with Rabbi Yechanan. Just the opposite. You're making it worse for yourself. Kolshkin, of course, Sharibal and Mazanis, he's actually expanding her reach and her ability. Because the fact is, he doesn't have to specify that he's actually committing his karka for her mezainis. It's an automatic stipulation in the system. She has a right to collect mezainis. The fact that he's adding this, additional guarantee, it almost sounds like he's trying to expand her reach. Look, if the kids don't provide, you can take from this karka. So if anything, it sounds like he's enhancing her capabilities rather than limiting them. Amrulay, they told Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yechanan disagreed with you. He said that when you single out a karka, you're actually limiting her to the value of that karka. Rish Lakish was not impressed. Amrulu, he tells them, Zilu, Havilo, go ahead and give her whatever she needs, without capping and restricting. Viloy, if you don't listen, ma pikna lechu. It's a harsh statement. Ma pikna lechu Rabbi Yechanan, I will extract Rabbi Yechanan meunaycha from your ears, meaning I'll put you in cherem. I'll just excommunicate you, so you can no longer rely and listen to Rabbi Yechanan. Oslo came to Rabbi Yechon. So he came back to Rabbi Yechon to complain. Amrlu tells him, look, hands up. Ma'esa, what can I do? Shekinegdi. Rish Lakish, who is equal to me in stature, he's my colleague. Cholokalai. He disagrees with me. I can't do anything. Amr Bravo. One more thing. To me, it was explained in the name of Rabbi Yechonon that actually it's not so simple. Even when a husband designates karka, it doesn't always limit her. It all depends on exactly how he expresses that commitment. Amar limizoines ribala. If he says this karka will be for limizoines, so he's actually enhancing her ability. You have the standard command, a standard Tanai Ksuba, and this will be something to back up that, that entitlement. Omar bimizonis, but if he uses a base, which is a restrictive expression, this karka will be in lieu. This karka will sort of be where you can source your mezainis. This will be where to draw the mezainis from. In that case, he's limiting her. He restricted her to this karka, and no more than that. So even Rabbi Yechon was only in this type of case of bimezainis. Hadran lachnara. So let's summarize the Gemara up until this point. One of the Tanai Ksuba is to provide for daughter and widow after death. Tanai of mezainis. Until when can a bas get the mezainis? Once she's married, or begeris, no mezainis. An arusa, we're going back to yesterday's daf a bit as well. So an arusa, she's engaged. Well, machlekes, Rav says no mezainis. Levi says yes mezainis. Mimma enes, so she was married, then she came back. Tanakama says yes. Rabbi Yehuda says no. What about a bas of yevama? This was discussed yesterday, and today we picked up from bas shniya, bas arusa, and bas anusa. We leave it as a question mark. An almana is entitled to mezainis only up until she accepted a marriage offer, or she hasn't yet found her match, but she's still looking. In that case, no mezainis. Or if she's teveh the ksuba in best, or she gave away the ksuba, machar, ksubasa, etc., no mezainis. Until what point does she have the mezainis? Rav says until the Yershin decide to give her the ksuba payment. According to Shmuel, it's up to her to decide whether she wants the ksuba payment or not. Until then, she can have her mezainis. Whatever the begadma she's wearing, according to Rav, we deducted from the ksuba, according to Shmuel, not. If he's meyachid the karka, and he says bim mezainis, according to Rav Yechonon, that's restrictive. According to Rish Lakish, it's actually enhancing her ksuba, her mezainis entitlement. Continues the Mishnah. Although standard commitment for the psula is 200 zuz, and the almana gets 100, that's standard. But you can add. If a husband chooses to add, there's no limit. Sky's the limit. Now, suppose the unexpected happens. He dies or he divorces. Whether they were merely engaged or married as well, doesn't matter. She gets everything. She gets the base amount and the tesefes. No. It depends. Been on a suin, post-marriage, sure. She gets everything. Mina erison, but only engaged, then we go back to the base amount. Besula goyva masayim, but not the supplemental amount. Why? The whole purpose was to marry. The presumed mindset, the umdana is, I only gave it if we marry. Rabbi Yehuda, sure, a basic chiv is 200, but you can tinker with it. Imratza, if he wants, koisev lebesula shtashel masayim, you can commit to 200. V'koiseves, his kabalti muchamana, she gives him a receipt. She's like being Michael, 100. I received 100 from you. This way, he's only chayiv 100. Or by the almana, mana, he writes 100. V'koiseves, and she returns with a receipt. His kabalti muchamishim zuz, I've already received 50 from you. This way, he's only chayiv 50. That's Rabbi Yehuda's shita. Rabbi Omer, no way. If one deducts from the standard 200 of the besula or the standard 100 for the almana, harizu bilas znus, we consider it like improper interaction. The Mefarshim explained that according to Rabbi Meir, The ksuba obligation is rooted in the Torah. It's a chiyuv Torah. You can't manipulate. You can't tinker with it. And if he's not going to comply, the marriage is hasn't really been established on proper footing with a proper commitment and obligation, and therefore we consider it like znus. Pshita, of course. Why would the Mishnah have to tell you that you can add to the ksuba? Why would anybody refuse donations? I mean, why can't he just offer what he? Why does it have to be explained in the Mishnah? Pshita ma'od tema. Perhaps I would say kitsusa of the Rabbanan. Rabbanan did establish a set amount: 200 for the besula, 100 for the almana. Don't enhance and don't supplement. You know why? We don't want to embarrass a fellow who can't afford more. That would be the thinking. The chiddush of the Mishnah is no. After all, it's a personal thing. You can do what you want. So if he wants to add, go ahead. See, if you look at the wording in the Mishnah, rather than saying Rotza lichtav, if he wants to write the extra amount, right? It doesn't say that. Like Tani, it doesn't say that. Ela Rotza lahoisev. The Mishnah uses the word hoisafa. It's a supplemental amount. What does that sound like? That it relates to the previous amount. It's built. It's an enhanced base amount. Base is 200. This is enhanced. This extends and expands it. What's the difference between kasav and hoisav? The answer is Masayele l'Rabbi Aivu Amar Rav Yanai. It's going to bring a riot of Aivu. Amar Rav Aivu Amar Rav Yanai. Tanai ksuba kiksuba dami. For instance, here we're speaking about the Tosefes ksuba. That's a form of Tanai ksuba. So these supplements in the ksuba are treated as the ksuba itself. Nafkamina. What would be the nafkamina? We're going to leave some for tomorrow. Let's just start. Nafkamina l'mecheres. Let's say, she sells her ksuba rights. U'lemecheles. She gives it away. Right? She's meichel to her husband. That transaction, whether it's sale or forgiving, applies itself to the ikar ksuba and to the tesefes as well, because it's all considered one package ksuba. We'll see the rest Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Okay, so we spoke about many details of the Mazzanis of the Bas, Mazzanis of the Almana. Now we have the Mishnah. According to Rav Meir, 200 is absolute. You can't deduct. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you could deduct by way of writing a receipt. And we learned that one may be moisif, it's allowed. Not only that, the Tosefes latches onto the Ikar Ksuba. It's called one package deal, one unit, pertaining to many halachas. Hatzlacha Rabba and Pesuras Teves.